We seem to live in an era where every hobby comes with an invisible price tag. This assumption that if you're good at something and you love it, then you, of course, will be monetizing it eventually, scaling it, building it into something that can replace your day job. I for sure have jumped to this thought too many times to count. Oh, if I start crocheting again, then I could sell it at this location over here. And I bet these type of people would really like this thing that I think that I want to make, but I haven't even started making yet. So maybe I could talk to this store that I know over here. And then before I have even picked back up the crochet needle or the paintbrush, or yes, of course, the clay, I've built an entire new business model in my brain. Okay, maybe that last part is just a me problem, but typically speaking, when any of us see a fellow potter with an Instagram following of, let's say, over 65,000 people maybe, you probably assume they're a full-time artist. Or at least assume that that number is big enough to support going full-time, at the very least. But what if that pressure is actually ruining the thing we fell in love with in the first place? What happens when you build a successful creative business only to realize you've burned yourself out on the very craft that once brought you joy? And what does it actually mean to keep pottery as something you love, not despite having a day job, but because of, thanks to, the day job? Today's conversation with Matt Robinson of Robinson Fired Home digs into all of this tension. Matt came to pottery 6 years ago, built an Instagram following of, yes, over 65,000 people. But what makes his story so valuable isn't about how to grow your Instagram. Because, spoiler, he's not trying to go full time. After burning out on a wedding photography business, funny enough, didn't realize that, Matt made the conscious choice to keep pottery as a serious side practice, one where he has the luxury to experiment, fail, and follow his creative curiosity without the weight of needing it to pay the bills. In today's episode, we talk about the realities of Instagram algorithms and email lists, the myth of being self-taught, why consistency might not mean what we think it means, and what it's like to navigate what we call creative ADD when you genuinely love trying so many new things. Matt also gets refreshingly honest about mental health impacts of social media, the freedom that comes from not needing pottery to be profitable, and why sometimes the best business decision is choosing not to build a business at all. If you're feeling pressure to monetize what you make, or wondering if you're somehow doing it wrong by keeping another job, Matt's perspective offers a genuinely different path forward, one where success isn't measured by going full-time, but by staying in love with what you make. We're going to dig into all of it right after this brief word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by The Community, your creative business support system with over 100 makers from around the world, with both the practical education you need to make a living from the things you make, found in our masterclasses on topics like finances, marketing, and SEO, plus the emotional support of fellow makers who truly understand what it's like to try and make a living from the things we make. It's like having both a business school designed specifically for artists and a team of colleagues who actually get what you're going through. But you don't have to take my word for it.
Hi, I'm Alicia Hagan in New Mexico. I joined the community last year after leaving my teaching career to pursue becoming a full-time artist. The community has been so invaluable in my growth as a solo artist because I still feel like I have coworkers and people I can talk to about my struggles and successes. The quarterly masterclasses always teach me something I didn't know I was even supposed to know. I also absolutely love going to the live co-working sessions and the book club meetups where I can hang out in real time with other makers from all around the world. It is awesome. You can find me and follow my journey on Instagram at Alicia Hagan Art.
Now, on with the show. Welcome to the Maker's Playbook, the show where we talk all about what it's really like to make a living from the things you make. I'm your host, seasoned entrepreneur of 14 years, Rebecca, Ikis, Kara. Hey, Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I feel like this has been a long time coming. I think I was trying to look it up earlier. I think the first time I sent a message to you was at least a year ago, and then I dropped the ball, and then schedules, and then all the things. So I'm really excited that this actually happened.
Yeah, likewise.
And what I didn't tell you before we hit record was the platform we used to record was like running some kind of update yesterday, and I couldn't log into it at all. And I was like, if I have to write Matt another message to ask to reschedule, I was like, to refuse. I will drive to you. We are gonna make this happen.
Oh no, you totally could have. We definitely would have made it work. It's all good.
It was the principle. It was I
Yeah.
refused.
Yeah, I'm glad it came together then.
Honestly. Well, before I get ahead of myself, since nobody knows who I'm actually talking to, how would you introduce yourself?
Well, my name's Matt Robinson. My pottery business, I'll throw that in quotation marks, is called Robinson Fired Home. I would say at various points, I'm either like a part-time side hustle potter, sometimes a hobby potter, depending on like what time of year it is, what I have going on in the rest of my life, that sort of thing. And I've been making pottery actually right around now, I think is my 6 year anniversary. Like maybe like a week from now, we'll make it officially 6 years since I took my first class.
That's amazing. Did you start, you mentioned class. Did you like start at a community studio and do that whole trajectory, or tell us a little bit about how it got going?
Yeah. One of my good friends that I do yoga with, she has her master's in pottery and teaches. And so she would talk about it. She taught at a local community studio that's closed now. But yeah, I just hear her talking about it. And she, every now and then she'd be like, you should try it. I think you'd really love it. And so eventually I did. And she was like, so right about that.
I need to see if I mean, this feels like a little bit of a downer of a story, but I'm like, is there somebody to interview who's going to tell me I touched clay? And I was like,
Yeah,
I don't
right?
know.
Does that ever happen? I mean, I guess it has to, but
This is like a call out to anyone listening that if you are that person or if your friend is that person, I would like to know.
yeah. Yeah. I feel like anyone listening, that's definitely not the case, but we need to find the people that touched clay and hated it and get them on.
Right. And be like, tell me
Right.
more.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. It doesn't compute.
No.
That's amazing. Okay, so you have a studio at home now, right? Based upon my internet stalking?
Yep, yep,
Cool,
yep.
cool.
I have my own wheel and my own kiln down in the basement. My dungeon studio.
Well, I don't understand the concept of the light, airy, and breezy non-dungeon studio
No,
because we
okay.
definitely have like I make sure the cobwebs are not on the packaging material before I wrap pots.
Oh my gosh, I know that so well. It's very literal. Yes. Uh-huh.
I mean, gratefully, we were able to carve out a space upstairs for like all the wet work for the wheel and trimming. But then
Oh,
as soon as that bisque fire happens, everything is in the basement. And we were
yeah.
talking before we hit record, our house is 100 years old. There's no insulation. So when I say dungeon, I mean like full on cellar. It is cement floors, cement cinder block walls, and it's currently 40 degrees outside, so it's probably like 47 in the basement.
Yeah, that's exactly how my old house was. It was instead of cinder block, no, it was stone walls, but like
Tomato,
cold,
tomato.
cold concrete floors, stone walls.
Yes.
Definitely cold. I mean, not super cold.
Not
But
great for glazing though.
no.
Like my fingers get so cold.
Yeah. Well,
So, well, so when did you kind of transition? Like you touched clay, you started a community studio, and from the get go, it was like, I need to build my life around making more time for this? Or how did that kind of progress into, hey, loved one, please let me take over a portion of our house?
yeah, I just found based on my community studios like available hours, because they obviously like taught classes too. And I just wasn't able to get in there as frequently as I would have liked. So it was pretty quick, like I think less than a year after I took my first class. And then I took 2 6-week courses and then became a member of the studio. Maybe like 9 months into it, I started kind of looking around online for a used kiln. And I think it was maybe right around a year after I had taken my first class that I found one that was like 5 hours away in Massachusetts, but it was perfect. It was little, it was in great shape. And yeah, so I made the drive and then I got my own home studio at that point. I should also mention, like, because you had said something about like making more time to make pottery a bigger part of my life. I'm really fortunate, like, my job, I end up with a lot more free time than the normal person. Like, I basically spend a lot of time being on standby. So I can be at home, but I have to be available to like go into work like I'm on call, but I'm not necessarily like scheduled in the OR. So I work full time and in my job I'm salaried, but I really only work like maybe 25 to 30 hours a week, even though like every work day, Monday to Friday during normal work hours, like 6 a.m. to like 3 or 4 p.m. I have to be available to work, but I'm not necessarily working. So it's great if
Only
you
only a person who works in an ER is like, normal work hours, 6 a.m.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get it.
I should I should say also first shift. First shift, like anybody who does shift work is
Yeah.
like, yeah, Monday through Friday. And I'm thinking 9 to 5, and you're like 6 a.m. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. But no, that's actually incredibly helpful context because I think
Yeah.
in a way my assumption is that's actually a little bit easier because if you do get called in first thing in the morning, or if you do have to go in whether you're on call or not, it's kind of already out of the way and you have a bigger chunk of time. I find 9 to 5 to be an incredibly difficult timeline to fit something else around because either you have to push yourself really hard to get up at like 4:30 in the morning and give yourself 2, maybe 3 hours ahead of time, or you have to try and protect some semblance of energy until 5 p.m. so that you have something left in you to give yourself another 3 hours. But
Yeah.
3 hours in pottery is not a lot. Like, we do need that chunk of time. So if you're out by 2, you can take a nap real quick, and by 3 o'clock, put in a few hours and then still have time to, like, have a social life and go out to dinner and be human.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great point. Yeah, having a quote unquote 9 to 5, it would be really hard to have a pottery side hustle or just even as a hobby potter, have enough time and energy and focus to like really improve your skill set and become like, you know, a skilled potter. Like, yeah, I'm always super, super, super thankful for my job. It's the perfect job for a person like me. Like, I have a partner, but I have no kids and I have a ton of hobbies. I'm kind of like one of those serial hobbyist people. That's like a term I just learned in the last year. I was like, oh, that's like the perfect way to describe me because I'm always finding new things that I like fall in love with and want, you know, pottery is like one of like literally like 10 different hobbies that I have. They're all competing priorities, but pottery is definitely like the number one hobby. But yeah, so my job for someone like me, like my schedule is constantly changing. I mean, I could literally get a text right now. I'm supposed to work at a hospital that's like 15 minutes away from me. Tomorrow morning, I'd be there at 7. But like I could get texted right now, like, hey, we actually need you at this other hospital that's 2.5 hours away from me. And we need you there at like 6:30 tomorrow morning. And I could be there. Yeah. And I could be there like until like 5 p.m. and then have like a 2.5 hour drive home. Now that's not common. I usually I'll say like 75% of my work is like within a half-hour drive, because I bop around to different hospitals, obviously. You can gather that from that. But yeah, it definitely happens. My schedule is like always changing. It's very unpredictable. And so it's for a normal person, I think it would be a difficult, it has its trade-offs. Like I get paid for my flexibility. And then I also end up with a lot of spare time where I can be at home doing what I want. Yeah.
But I imagine on the flip side of that, it's hard to then get into a groove,
Yes. That's
right?
so true. Yeah. Uh-huh. That
Like, that's the immediate thing I think about being a person who, like, it has accepted the fact that I thrive on routine in some ways, but also need to give myself enough space to break it because I need to, like, I don't know. I'm not I don't think of myself as needing to be rebellious, but apparently if I give myself too much routine, I need to just say, like, "F it" every once in a while and, like, do nothing that's healthy for me.
yeah, yeah.
But, like, when you are trying to improve a skill, because also what's fascinating to me when you say you have, like, 10 different hobbies aside, like, inclusive of pottery, from the outside looking in, you're doing them all at a very high level.
Ah,
Like, the
thanks.
floral, as a person who photographed a lot of flower arrangements over the course of 15 years, like, the floral is happening, the photography is happening, the pottery is happening.
Thank you.
I'm also, like, a constantly curious person, so I don't currently have 10 hobbies, but I wish I definitely have a list waiting for me. But
Yeah.
moving forward on any of them, getting that momentum, getting that traction, finding a groove is so difficult. Like, I don't know what my question is here, but I'm like, "How? How are you doing it? Teach me."
Well, yeah, so I will say I'm kind of one of those people that hones in on something and gets like laser focused on something for like a certain period of time and like becomes like completely 100% obsessed.
Mhm.
So photography was my first like creative passion that I got into like gosh, maybe like 15 years ago. It was like pretty early, like straight out of college, I would say.
That sounds about right, because that's when digital cameras were, like,
Yes.
accessible. I'm like, "Yeah, that's right."
Yes, 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 exactly. When it went to digital and then this was the key factor when the cell phones got cameras in them. And then when the cell phones got cameras that were actually almost comparable to the point and shoots.
Oh, yeah.
Not nearly as good, but like my first cell phone that I had that was like a smartphone was like it was like the Motorola Droid, I think it was called. Do you remember that?
As soon as you say Motorola, I either think of an indestructible cell phone that people
Yeah.
wish still existed or the Razor. Weren't they the Razor? The
Yeah.
I never had one, but man, did I want those were like the cool kids had the Razors. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
So I'm pretty sure I switched from the Razor, which I had in college, to after I got like my first job. Like I think I had a Razor for like years. And then I had my first like job where I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have money to like I could buy like one of these new fancy phones." It was, it was amazing. And so I bought this phone that was like brand new, top of the line. And it was called the Thunderbolt, I think. Or maybe that was the one after the first one. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The thing was it had a phone or a camera. A camera that was like somehow inside this phone that was already smaller than a camera. And I was like, how on earth? And I would take pictures with it. And I was like, these are incredible for
Yeah.
like for this technology. Like, here's a point and shoot that's like as big as my hand. And then here's this phone that's like a little bit smaller than my hand. And it's taking these pictures that are almost as good as this point and shoot. And I just started taking these pictures. At first, I was just amazed at how good the camera was. And then I started taking pictures of my mom's garden, like bugs in the garden and like flowers. And I just got super into it, like to the point where right around that same time, it was like serendipitous. One of my good friends, who was a wedding photographer, was selling, she had the original Canon 5D. Are you like Canon,
Oh, yeah.
Nikon,
Yep. I know
Canon?
exactly. Yeah. I learned on Canon film. Also,
Okay.
let's just say
Oh,
for the record
okay.
right
Right on.
now.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
well,
I've
cool.
since you said you had like a almost smartphone in college, I was like, "Ooh, I've got you by a couple of years now," because there's like this 5-year gap for millennial, like late 80s, early 90s born, where like the technology was radically different
Uh-huh.
between high school, college, whatever. Um,
I was
I'm
born
just gonna go on the record. In '86?
yeah.
Oh, we were the same. I was just
Oh,
cheap.
well, no way. Oh, cool.
I was
Literally the
just way
same. That's
cheaper.
awesome.
Um, but I'm just gonna say out loud because I know as soon as we start saying Canon, Nikon, whatever, everyone's gonna be like, "Which one? Which one should I buy?" It's like Pepsi or Coke, people. Just chill the fuck out.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so the only reason I shoot on Canon now is because I learned on Canon film, because that's
Uh-huh.
just, I don't know, what I had access to, and the muscle memory was all there. So there
Yeah,
was no way I was gonna switch because,
right.
like, Nikon is literally the reverse of everything. When you wanna zoom in, you turn it the opposite direction.
Oh,
That everything is the opposite. It's you put a Nikon in my hand and you would think I've never touched a camera before. But it's Pepsi or Coke, don't worry, whatever. That's just for anybody who's like, "Which one? Which one?" I'm like, "Calm down."
so true. So true. Yeah, and like you said, you just kinda happened to fall into it. That's what you learned on. I just happened to fall into Canon because that's what my friend was selling. She upgraded from the 5D to, like, the 5D Mark II, or maybe it was the Mark III that she was getting, I don't remember. And she actually called or texted, or maybe it was in person. She told me like, "Hey, I'm selling my camera. If you know anyone that's interested, like, let me know." Like, she wasn't expecting me to want it, but that was like right at the time that I was like, poking around my mom's garden with my fancy cell phone camera, being like, "Ooh, this photography is like pretty cool." So I ended up buying that, and then just, yeah, became completely obsessed. Started spending all my free time on, this is before social media was a thing, so it was like online photography forums.
Yes. That's literally how I got the idea of starting the community that we have now, because,
Yeah.
I mean, Facebook was around, but, like, how I learned the, like, first 6 months of trying to get my business off the ground 15 years ago was because of online forums. Back in the day, there was one that was hosted by, Pictage, was a gallery provider. Like, you paid to use their services to host galleries so clients could get all their pictures instead of, I don't even know if Dropbox existed at the time. This was, like, novel technology back in the day. I'm sure explaining this to anyone now, they're gonna be like, "Why did you need to pay somebody to do that?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "Listen."
Yeah.
But they then created this community around their members, and not just like, "Oh, you're paying us money, so let's do this thing." They did conferences, they did all this stuff, and that's how I figured stuff out for the first couple of years. So, yeah. Anyway, keep going, because this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
amazing. The, like, parallels that we have are
Yeah, right?
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so fun. I knew, yeah, we could, oh gosh, we could talk about just
I know,
photography for this
I
whole
know.
this whole
We'll
interview.
start a whole separate
Yeah.
podcast.
But yeah, I just ate and breathed photography, and I learned just online. People this is actually funny. This is one thing that kind of bugs me nowadays, is like people will claim to be like self-taught, and I feel like that word isn't relevant anymore. I feel like self-taught was a word that we used, that our parents used back when they would like rent books out of the library. And like, this is like, my dad is a self-taught like woodworker. Like, he, remodeled every house that we lived in that I was growing up, and like would build a deck or like a new stairwell, and like would finish the basement. Like, he was totally a self-taught woodworker, right? Like, because he learned by just studying himself from books. Whereas I would never really call myself, I mean, I guess I used to, but I kind of don't anymore, because you're group taught. You're taught by 1,000 different people that are freely sharing their information online. And that's how you're learning. And if it wasn't for all of this community that exists because of the internet, like, you maybe you would have been able to teach yourself, but it would have been way, way,
Slower.
way more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say that I would have been able to teach myself photography by just, like, taking some books out of a library like my dad.
Yeah. Yeah. And even
So,
then, somebody wrote that book. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you still had to figure out how to apply what you read in a book into real life, and especially with woodworking. I mean, your dad had to figure out the right tools and how to make sure the stairs didn't fall apart and so many
Yeah.
different things. But I was like, wow, like it's one thing to redo the trim, which is what we've done in our house. It's another thing to build a set of stairs. But there was still somebody who was knowledgeable who wrote the book. I love that you've said this. I did not expect for you to say this, but it's absolutely, there was a few years back, something was going around the internet, and I couldn't keep my mouth shut and was like, let's talk about self-taught because I agree with you completely. It's like, no, I think what we mean by it is you didn't go to school for something,
Yeah,
right?
you're right. That is what it has come to me.
But it
Absolutely.
does take away all of the resources that have been, for me, it's community taught, group taught. Like you said, like there's got to be another, let's pick something else
Yeah.
than self. Because self taught
Yeah.
for me, like literally speaking, is, and even then, like when I think about when I first got into the wheel, when I was in England, I worked in a at risk art center for kids. The art center was not at risk. I worked at an art center for at risk
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, yeah. Gotcha.
Let me let me get that correct.
In
But
England?
yeah.
Cool.
In the north of England. So let me rephrase the accent you might be envisioning in your head because it was not what you think.
Oh, can we get an impression? I
Ooh,
love
no. No, well, okay, I can say one phrase. I can't do impressions, but if you put me in a room with somebody who has an accent, I will start to change the way I talk.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know what it is. But so I was in Newcastle upon Tyne, which is super far north. It's right along Hadrian's Wall, which is where the Scottish English border used to be.
Oh, okay.
And so the
Did
people
not know
who
that.
are from Newcastle are called Geordies. So it's a Geordie accent, spelled like the name George, but DIE at the end.
Oh.
Don't ask me why, because I
Yeah.
don't know. But if a kid would say to me, I don't know, like I do not know, it was I did not. Yep. I did not.
Yep. Well, what? Oh my gosh, there's, like, extra consonants there that just
Oh,
definitely don't seem to belong.
maybe or just not. I can't I don't know. It's a whole thing. It is not the Queen's English the way people thought when I said, "Oh, I'm going to England." They would,
Yeah.
mimic something and I was like, nope, that's not what's happening."
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It was incredible. That's where I got into clay because there was a ceramics room
That's
in
how
this.
you first
Mhm.
got into.
Yep.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yep. Yeah. I had Tracy on the podcast a while back, actually, who's the woman who ran the ceramic studio, the room. But then she found out she was pregnant and she went on maternity leave.
Oh,
And so I wanted to get better at this thing. One, because I was supposed to be teaching kids and I didn't know what I was doing. But like, even then, as I'm about to say, like, oh, I think of self taught, getting back to the point, I
oh,
think of
yeah.
self taught as
There
like,
was a reason in
yeah,
this world.
right. Right. Every single weekend or at the end of every day, I had keys to the place. I would stay and practice on the wheel, right? Because I was interested in it. But I was on my own and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. But I can't even say I was truly self taught then because Tracy and Will, who ran the place, showed me what to do initially. And then I was just on my own to practice. But like, I think of like I don't know, if you inherited a wheel from a family member, took it home and started trying to figure it out, that's self taught.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I
But
would totally.
like, you know, watching something, reading something, somebody else put something into that to help you. But anyway,
Yeah.
I will come off my soapbox and we will move on. I think it's an interesting thing though, because it's one of those, I'm starting to notice it's one of those cultural things maybe too, that like, I heard an interview with Osa Atoe on Ben Carter's podcast, the Tales of a Red Clay Rambler. And I'm not going to put this nearly as beautifully as she put it. So everybody please go find that episode and listen to it. But paraphrasing, she was talking about how, like, she enjoyed the fact you could look at her work and see little bits of the people who she's been influenced by, her mentors, the people that came before her, and this lineage and history that has all had to merge together in the unique experience of her life for her work to be what it is.
Yeah.
And that was frankly the first time I ever heard another artist or maker recognize the lineage. And it was so beautiful the way she put it. So again, go listen to it because my paraphrasing is garbage. But like it was like, yeah, I don't care about like having a brand new creative idea that nobody's ever done before. I don't know. I've never had that instinct, that drive, that interest. Like I just want to keep getting better at what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool the way that she put it. It's so true. Like, we don't really always kind of look back and recognize our work in that way, but it is completely the confluence of like all the past teachers that we've had, and then also just the past experiences that we've had that have given us a certain interest in however we kind of end up doing the surface decoration on the pottery, like whether we're more illustrative or whether we like, sort of carved look or just colorful glaze layered look. Like it definitely comes from, it's not random, right? Like
Yep.
yeah, we've come to those aesthetic choices from all of our past experiences. And yeah.
I mean, I have to imagine, okay, my assumption. You got into floral before pottery, right or wrong?
It was
Ooh.
kind of around the same time, actually,
Okay.
because I got into, well, if you're talking about like kind of floral design, that was definitely after pottery. But in terms of like growing the flowers, just the gardening, that was right around the same time as pottery. Actually, no, maybe a little bit before pottery because I got into the gardening after I bought my first house. Yeah, so no, gardening definitely came first because my first house was in, I think I bought it in like 2016 or 2017 with my partner. That was the first time I had like a landscape where it was like, okay, what do I do with this? Because it was pretty lackluster, we'll just say. That was when I started like planting things for the first time and I got super into gardening. But yeah, in terms of like the arranging of the flowers, that's just kind of happened in the last couple years.
But I can see it so I've got your Instagram pulled up, not to be weird, but
Yeah.
like I can see the difference in like the shapes, the way you match a shape of pottery with floral to me clearly shows a level of understanding of the two together that is different than a potter who is really interested in making vases, but didn't have that interest in the floral beforehand, right? Because like certain stems look good in certain shapes, or sometimes you're not going to really see that much of the shape because it's about the floral, or sometimes you're going to see all the shape because it's a bud vase and you're putting one stem in it. And
Yeah.
so the shape you want for that is going to be different. Like kind of going back to that confluence of influences is the through line that my brain is on here, if it's not obvious. That's different than, I don't know, somebody who is really interested in glaze research and is glazing a lot of vases and then just happens to put a flower into them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Combining the florals and the pottery, it was definitely massively helpful to know about my flowers, like what sort of stem length I'm going to get from them and just how big they are in proportion to the pottery. And I think a lot of that was just sort of like intuitive. And a lot of it is like not planned. Like, I mean, a lot of it was if we were talking about specifically like my whole calendar project thing. But with just arranging in general, I think there is a lot of intuitive stuff that happens, but it comes from, a basic knowledge of having grown it. Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
using all the buzzwords that get me all hyped up, talking about
Really?
self-taught and talking about intuitive art. I'm either gonna get canceled or I'm gonna go viral from this whole conversation because
Oh, that's funny.
because you said it there at the end, like there's already a certain amount of knowledge that you have that comes into the intuition, right? Like I don't think we can separate out the two. And
Yeah.
I don't know what year it was that intuitive art became like a phrase that everybody was using. And I was like, okay, but what did you know before that? Like,
Mhm.
you don't, I can intuitively compose an image, but that's also because I have a degree in graphic design before and I learned about the rules of composition and light and all of these other things. So now it's intuitive, quote unquote, for me.
Well, this is funny because this
Right?
intuitive art, I haven't actually heard of this.
Oh, well, your phone's nearby, so I've completely ruined your feed now. I'm sure it'll come up the next time you're scrolling.
You're so right. Oh gosh. Okay.
Shoot, yeah.
Yeah, now you've piqued my interest. I'm gonna check it out if it doesn't.
It's and I did not anticipate this many hot takes in our conversation, but it is akin to self-taught, right? Because it's like saying,
Yeah.
I personally had this unique idea and it is all a credit to me. And I'm like, but is it?
But yeah. But like, where did the basis for that intuition come from? There was something there that had to be learned at some point, right?
This is where I start to get nervous about being really blunt on the internet, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I gotta change the
Oh,
subject."
oh no. Yeah. Um, anyone
Oh,
who does
shoot.
intuitive art, we
Still
don't
love
need
and
to.
appreciate you,
Yes,
I just have questions.
art. Yeah, your art is good. We're not nervous
Oh,
at
shoot.
all.
Right?
We're
I'm
not
like,
negative.
let me walk this back a little
Yeah.
bit." Well,
Yeah.
since we're on the subject of your vases, and I forgot to tell you this before we hit record, you may or may not know, I let our community members know who I'm interviewing before we interview so they have a chance to check out your stuff and post any questions.
Oh yeah, right.
So Jessica's question was where you get all the inspiration for so many different shapes, vase shapes specifically.
Oh, that's a great question because I don't know. I guess I'm just like
Intuitive.
I yeah. I've just I think I have like creative ADD. Like I can never this is actually a good thing to touch on. We can come back to this because I feel it's both a point that I'm proud of, but also a point that I really struggle with because I make all of these huge array of silhouettes and then also a huge array of like glazing finishes. And I like them all and it makes me happy to make them. But I also feel like I have no creative voice. Like my pottery has no unifying thing that makes it me. Right. And like, I really appreciate other potters that like they know, what they're doing. Like they just not, I don't want to say make the same thing over and over again because obviously a potter's like, they're making different vessels, but like you can take a mug and a bowl and a vase from certain potters and be able to recognize them instantly as like that's from that person. Like I know it for sure. And like I would love to be able to have that too. And not just purely for like the recognition aspect, but like there's a there's a mastery that comes to that, right? When you've done the same finish on dozens, hundreds, thousands of pots, like you recognize that. Like it has a really masterful quality to it. But anyway, I guess so to get back to your question, which was where does the inspiration come from? I think it's just like I'm just always excited to try something new. Yeah, that's where I think it comes from.
The thing that popped into my head as you were talking about like those kind of warring desires of changing it up and experimenting and doing something different, but then also having like a level of mastery was whether or not there's a place to find a middle of like taking some of those favorite forms, making them 100 times, and whether the first step is like making them 100 times so that the throwing becomes mastered or the throwing and the trimming becomes efficient or whatever the goal is. And maybe you don't glaze them all the same way. Or maybe it's, making 100 different shapes, but you do glaze them all the same way. And like being able to like
Yeah.
play around with what that actually looks like, but in a way that after 100 I get to change. And so change will come so that you don't have to like feel stuck in a box. I don't know. It's just what came into my head. I don't know if it actually works. I make the same thing over and over again because I don't know, maybe I just don't have that many creative ideas.
No, as long as you enjoy what you're doing, like, that's you enjoy what you're doing and you also like the final product, like, then you're doing it right, right? So and so I guess I'm doing it right now because I enjoy the process and I enjoy the final product, but yeah, I will totally say there's definitely a part of me that is yearning to, like, settle in somewhere, and it's funny, like I said, it's, like, 6 years now, I feel like I should have settled in somewhere by now, but, I keep saying I think it's been, like, 2 years now where I'm like especially around this time of year, right? The new year turns and I'm like, "Okay, I figured out what I'm gonna do this year, like, the potter that I'm gonna be, like," and it's just not happening. I like
Yep.
potter squirrel brain.
But actually, this goes to one of the questions I had, which was like, it's always so interesting to me when you do have a separate job, you don't have to worry about selling pots to pay for your healthcare or anything like that. We still have these pressures. We still have these, like, I should have figured this out, or I need to do XYZ. And yet, for me, the greatest benefit of it not being a full time thing is like you get to do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, you're so right, that is such a great point, like, that is a huge part of it, right? Like, I have the luxury of constantly pushing it and trying something new. The money that I make off the pottery is not what's paying my bills, not in any way, shape, or form. I'm not even profitable. Like my business is not, I'm a glaze hoarder. Like I have way, I have so many glazes and I continue to order more glazes. I never finish the pints that I have, but I have to try new ones. Like there's so many. But so yeah, like that's such a great point. I think a lot of people are almost forced into finding a voice because they need you're making the money off your pottery. So you don't have for one thing, constantly trying something new is like you have no idea how many times I fail on the wheel with trying these new silhouettes or new forms. Like constantly making something new is like you're going to fail a lot and you don't have that luxury to spend a lot of time failing when you're depending on the pottery for your to make a life. So, yeah, that's a huge part of it. That's a great practical point. Like, yeah, I could say I have creative ADD or I have a ton of inspiration or I think the biggest part is actually that I have the luxury to just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, and that's great. Like, but I also get the kind of like the artistic desire of, I mean, I think if anybody went back and listened to episodes from the first, I don't know, I think it was probably the second year in where I got really fixated on this notion of voice and like, what is
Uh,
my voice? I don't have a voice. What does that mean? Oh my God, like, blah,
this
blah,
is
blah.
me. This is
Ugh,
my
right.
crisis.
I wouldn't say I have one yet, but I just let it go a little bit. I don't
Yeah.
know. This is not advice. This is just like what I went through. It's just interesting for me to think about because I also think what you've said will hit home for a lot of people who also have a separate outside job, but have these internal pressures of, I should have this figured out or I need to do this. And I'm curious to figure out where the heck it's coming from. Like, is it the internet? Is it social? Is it
Yeah.
our generation because we've monetized literally every hobby we've ever had because that's what it means to be a millennial
Oh my
because
god, yes, that is
because
so
economic
true.
breakdown multiple times throughout our lives? Like,
And
I don't know.
also just, like, social media, like, we were the first generation where, like, the influencer
Mm,
like, became a thing, and we're
mhm.
just flooded with all this stuff online of all these people that took their hobby and made some sort of success out of it and made it look so easy because it's Instagram and all you see is the highlight reel. And
Yep.
so we're from yeah.
Which, from the outside looking in, Matt, your Instagram looks pretty damn successful. I'm just saying.
That it's Gosh, we could have a whole conversation just on social media and Instagram because it's such a love-hate relationship that I have with it. I think that a lot of people have with it. And I feel so just my heart goes out to potters that are making a living off of their pottery and have to wear that marketing hat, and Instagram is their main marketing tool because there's so much pressure that just like even someone like me who's not making a living off their pottery can sometimes feel. I think I've gotten beyond it now, but like I used to care so much about my Instagram. And now it's like, I just, can I swear on here?
Yes. I'm
Like,
pretty
I
sure I
just don't.
F-bombed already, and usually I put a precursor when that comes out.
I just don't give a fuck anymore. Yeah, it's such a double-edged sword. It's just so hard. I think social media can really just take a huge toll on you mentally when you invest too much in it and when because I mean it's made to be addictive. Like
Oh, like,
our
I'm
time on the platform is their money. So it's engineered so that all we want to do is spend more and more time on it. But it just
I'm pretty sure the research now is like I don't wanna overstate this. It was either, like, more addictive than Coke? I don't think it was heroin. It was a drug. I mean, it was literally
yeah.
compared they did the research. I don't think it was heroin, but it definitely was above we're not talking, like, pot or alcohol. We're talking, like, a little higher level situation.
Yeah.
And somebody can Google and find I know that there is research out there that it is, like, the battle we all feel is real.
Yeah. And there's a huge relationship that research has demonstrated between social media use and depression and anxiety. Like, we don't have enough research yet that they haven't found like a causative relationship, but there is definitely a correlative relationship. And so we can't say that people who use social media more frequently, like it is causing anxiety and depression. But we do know that if I just pluck two random people out and this person is on social media 2 hours out of the day and this person doesn't use social media at all, we can almost guarantee that that person that is on social media a few hours a day they're going to have higher self-assessment scores of anxiety and depression. Like it's guaranteed statistically. So yeah, I mean, how did this whole question,
I was saying from an outside looking towards what you're doing, what I see is a very professional looking Instagram, a very like part of why I was like, "Hey, let's have a conversation," is because it's like I would have assumed the goal is that you're looking to grow enough to go full time with pots
so that kind of
or and
was,
also gardening and calendars together.
yeah, you're right. So that kind of was my goal for maybe pseudo like a goal. I kind of always had this idea that eventually I would like to drop my full-time job and go full-time with pottery. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right that, you know, maybe just 2 years ago, I was putting a ton of pressure on myself to like grow the Instagram so that I could leave my full-time job eventually, like quote unquote, retire into pottery. But I just, I think eventually I would still, this is funny. So many things I could talk about here. One, I have learned through the whole photography side hustle that I had that we actually talked about this before we were recording, but I did a wedding photography business in addition to my full-time job for like 4 to 5 years. And I hated photography by the end of it. I completely burned myself out. And, halfway into that period, like maybe 3 years into the whole photography thing, I was like, yeah, I'm going to push this as far as I can get it and then eventually quit my full time job and do photography full time. But then a little further into it, I realized like, I don't think I want to give up every single weekend I have during the spring, summer, and fall when all of my friends and family are free and doing things.
Also, I'm fairly certain you're on the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
So, like, there's a very small window of time we both have where it's a reasonable season to be outside.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was your busiest time of year
Yeah.
where you never had a weekend to go to the beach or to the park or I don't know, a beer garden.
Wow. Yeah, and that's
Yep.
another one of my hobbies. I love the outdoors. I love to travel. So like doing full-time event wedding photography was not really compatible to travel unless I wanted to just not make any money for 2 weekends in a row, which as a
Mhm.
full-time photographer, like I guess if you have a really great business going, they make it work, but I just
But it's
always
seasonal.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There's also a struggle for me to constantly have an email to get back to or constantly have a deadline hanging over my head. And I learned that I functioned much better in my full time position where when I was done with work and not on call, work is out of my brain completely, not thinking about it whatsoever. But with the photography, running your own business, there's always work that has to be done, right? You have to know this. Going from owning your own event photography business to now owning your own like
Yep.
pottery
There's al
slash
there's
yeah,
always something that can be improved, that you wanna do better, that would help, that would and, like, there's always a reason to do it, right? It's not just like, "Oh, I'll I don't know, I just don't like this I'm trying to think of a simple example. Branding, for example, right? Like, you wanna update the visual side of branding because branding's not just your logo, but that's a different story. Like, so you wanna update your branding. Sure, some of that might be you're bored with it and you just don't like it anymore, but then there's the other side of, like, I wanna grow and attract these other types of people or the different people that I'm currently working with, so actually it's connected to the bottom line, which is connected
yeah.
to paying your bills,
Mhm.
which is connected to survival.
Yeah, so with the photography, I learned that about myself, which was great to kind of get that out of the way back then before the pottery. Another thought that just popped into my head was with pottery, I am such a perfectionist and it takes me so long to make things that I've just learned at this point, I could never, ever make a living off selling pots. I would not be physically capable of it. And if I forced myself to be, I would hate pottery just as much as I hated photography, which I don't hate photography anymore. Like I do it. I don't every now and then I'll still get people at work at my day job that would be like, so you still doing photography? Like, maybe would you want to do this? And I'm like, "Mm,
I
no,
have to I have to ask, just out of curiosity, does that tend to happen a lot as soon as the leaves start to change, namely September, October, November, because everyone's like, "Oh shit, I need a Christmas card."
that's a great question. I don't think so. I haven't really noticed when
I
it's
will I
happening.
will put money on it, and I'm gonna
Probably.
call you in September or
Yeah.
October.
All I know is it's like PTSD response, like, nope, not doing it.
Okay, once again, this is the episode of hot takes because here we go.
Oh, no.
I I hate fall
Oh,
because of
what?
15 because I know this is why it's a hot take.
Oh my god.
Because of 15 years of events, I hate fall
Oh, yeah.
because not that fall's not beautiful. Fall is beautiful. The leaves, the colors, they're lovely. I mean, everybody seems to forget that what happens after fall is winter and that is miserable, but putting that aside, everyone loses their mind. Everyone's favorite season is fall,
Yeah.
and they and everybody thinks about it as soon as the leaves change. And you can't plan ahead for when that's going to happen. You can guess, but it's also never going to be exactly the same year to year. The weather makes a difference of how the leaves look.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee you that the favorite oak tree in your favorite park is going to look beautifully red the day you scheduled your engagement pictures. That
Right.
is out of my hands.
Yep, yep. You're
And
in
thus,
Milwaukee, right?
I hate fall. I am now, but I did all my events and stuff in Chicago
Oh, okay.
before we moved up here. Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
Chicago?
there's more trees here. Like, I was downtown Chicago, and Chicago is a very green city, to be fair, there's a lot of parks.
Oh, okay.
But not like upstate New York, not like Door County,
Well, that's why I asked. Yeah, because I was kind of like, wait, but how many like trees do you really have where you are that are like displaying beautiful fall colors?
like big, huge. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
hence
Makes it even
hence
more
the hot
tricky
take.
with less of a tree supply to depend on.
Oh, I knew which ones. I
Yeah.
had a I had a list that I would know, like, this one would turn early, this
Yeah.
one would turn later, like, you were forever, like,
Oh my
checking. It
gosh.
was a whole thing. It was a
I
whole thing,
bet
but I
you have like a
digress.
tree Excel sheet. This tree in this park turns, within this couple of weeks, but this one over here, it's like next to a building, which gives it more warmth during the day. So it turns a few weeks later.
I mean, I'm actually a little disappointed in myself that I didn't have it down that tight.
Oh my
Like, there
gosh.
are gaps in
That
my
would be
systems,
insane.
apparently.
That would be insane.
But I will admit that going back to cell phone cameras, when geotagging happened with pictures natively in your phone,
Yeah.
that was incredibly helpful because then
No.
I could just like, if I was on the train or a bus or something and I would see something, I could snap a pic and then I could see the geotag later to know like, oh, okay, that particular tree was at this intersection so I can get somebody back there when they ask.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's smart. Good use of that.
But I digress. Anyway, we were saying
Yeah. What were what were we saying?
we knew this
Um,
was going to happen. But
yeah.
I mean, I think it's I think it's incredibly helpful to hear and to understand because for so many people the perceived dream, especially if somebody's looking at what you're doing on Instagram, is to go full time. And to realize like even with 65,000 followers, you're saying this would not be sustainable, this would not be profitable, I could not pay my bills.
No. No. I think, especially with our generation, like we were saying before, like with the millennials and how the whole internet ecosystem, as soon as we got online onto social media, like we saw all these people being like successful with their hobbies. And we just like have this almost innate pressure to do it with our hobbies. But yeah, no, luckily, based on my experience with the photography and how I burned myself out on that, and luckily, I can say I'm glad I came to pottery when I did, like later in life. I'll be 40 in a few months, so I'm not super old, but I was like in my mid 30s when I came to pottery. I don't if I was like a 20-year-old fresh out of college with kind of not the greatest job and I came to pottery and fell in love with it, I could totally see me being like, "Oh, I could make pottery my thing and make a living off this and put this immense amount of pressure to grow my Instagram and to make all these pots and to make it work." But, there is some wisdom in sticking with that job maybe and not putting all that pressure on yourself because I'll tell you 15 years later, I've had the same job for 15 years now. It'll be actually 16. 16. This month is my 16th anniversary. I have like 7 weeks, if you count my sick time, of paid vacation where
That's a American anomaly, just for the record. Like,
oh,
what I'm hearing is college kids get a what's your exact role? Should we tell them? What do they need to where do they need to fit into this? Traveling nursing, anesthesiology, what do we need? Like, we're not saying surgeon. That feels like you wouldn't have the time.
no.
Uh,
No, yeah, so I work in the operating room doing what's called
yeah.
neuromonitoring, so it's like a crazy niche field where, like, I'm specifically in on just neurosurgeries and only, like, a small subset of neurosurgeries where they're, like, working on the brain or spinal cord in a way where, like, it could potentially be damaged by the surgeon, and I'm, like, constantly testing it to make sure it's, like, not being damaged, more or less. And, of course, there's so many caveats, like, I can't say, like, any sort of corporate job you stick with for 15 years, you're going to end up with 7 weeks vacation. Like, of course not. That would be crazy. But
And some people might not wanna give up those 15 years. They're gonna be like,
Yeah.
"Well, I'm not willing to wait that long." Who
Yeah.
knows? That's
My
fine.
my only point is like, if you're in that position where, like, you're putting a ton of pressure on yourself to, get out of the 9 to 5 and do your own thing, like, maybe is that what's really gonna make you happy? Like, or are you
Mm.
making yourself unhappy with all this pressure that you're putting yourself under? Like, I don't know. I've just learned that it's not for me, at least at this point. I will say that my ultimate secret dream, which never really revealed. My partner and I have talked about it, but that's pretty much it. Like, if I were to make a living off of pottery, I would love to own my own community studio, especially
Mm.
in my area because there is a severe need for it. Like I said, the community studio I started at closed, and the only other art centers that are around, they just offer class-based access. So you can't just be a member and go and use a pottery studio anywhere around here, like literally anywhere. I live in it's called the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. It's like an hour north of Philadelphia, and there's like three cities kind of all clustered together, and there's just not the space. It doesn't exist. So like, I would love to do that
That's
eventually.
crazy to think about because Philly is such a, like, hot spot of arts and murals and pottery and, I mean, just arts. I said it already. Like, I feel like it is I don't wanna say unknown because I think anybody who has ever been to Philly or lives in Philly is gonna be like, "Yeah, we know." But I think it gets passed over, much like, I don't know, the entirety of the Midwest.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
You're getting closer. Okay, I'm gonna sound like a geographic idiot, but I was about to say because it's close to New York, and I understand that people are gonna be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" To me, who is farther away, it is
Uh-huh.
closer.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's wild to think about that there would be that big of a
Well,
gap, but
it is.
yeah.
It is wild. I don't understand it. Probably by the time I would do something, watch there be like 3 pottery studios that pop up by then, because I'm not in any position to do it anytime soon, but,
Yeah.
after a couple more years of savings, and if the right place popped up in the right location with the right parking, like, maybe.
Mhm.
We'll see.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, I can tell you, I will never be making a living off selling my pots because I would be terrible at it.
But I love this perspective, honestly. One, because it's real and realistic, and I also think, understanding the realities of those pressures of, like, having that experience with the photography business and burning out with it gave you this insight into, like, how you naturally work, what truly does give you the lifestyle and the life and the quality of life. I'm purposely not using what makes you happy because that's a
Yeah.
fleeting feeling.
Jesus.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we all have good days and bad days, whether you're self-employed or traditionally employed, it does not matter.
Yeah.
But, like, looking at it deeper to be like, I can still do this thing I love. I can do it in a way that's very serious, that's very professional on many levels, without it being professional on the place of, like, my livelihood is going to rely on it. It does make me curious, though, like, okay, the financial pressure is off, but I'm assuming you still have an inbox that people are coming into being like, or a DM, whatever, being like, how can I buy a pot? When can I get pots? How come I can't get any pots? But. Like, or, so that's an external pressure, or the internal pressure that I think we both have talked
Oh,
about of like the desires and the wants and the shoulds and the needs to that are just on you. Like, this is probably an impossible answer, but how do we kind of get those to quiet down?
yeah. So I will say that all of last year, I really was pretty quiet on Instagram. And then basically I ramped up like 2 weeks before I had a sale, like, hey everyone, I'm here, like posting every day, sometimes twice a day, like, look at my pots. I'm having a sale. Check it out. Check it out. Which is not the way to do Instagram at all. Let me just tell you. If you want to be silent for like 4 months and then all of a sudden pop up out of nowhere, like the algorithm is just going to be like, yeah, you're funny. Okay, you can go away now. It does not work well. Consistency is a huge thing. That is, all the people that plug consistency on Instagram. And I'm not saying it has to be every day, but, you know, once a week, once every 2 weeks or something. Like as long as you're posting regularly, the algorithm is going to be much more favorable to you. I know this from direct experience of like posting regularly and then not posting regularly. Cause I've done this actually a few times where I'll go, like I said, I've kind of had this double-edged sword experience with social media where I could say when I am participating regularly on Instagram, I definitely become more of an anxious person. Like I do. It's just a fact I can recognize about myself now. It's crazy to feel yourself constantly having this urge to pick up your phone and check this app. Like, and when you don't, there's like this just little bit of tension that sort of just rises up. And it's just this background noise of pressure that a lot of people I don't think even recognize. But
Yes.
oh gosh, now I went off on another tangent. Where was I? Oh, with the Instagram. Yeah. So I've learned to just when I want to pull back, I just pull back. And I'll just completely go silent for weeks, months, until I feel like it again. And then I'll start posting. But if your goal is to be actively growing an audience as a business to sell to, consistency is definitely huge. But you were saying about people like, going into the DMs and asking like, hey, like, where can I buy a pot? I actually haven't gotten a ton of that this last year because, like I said, I have been silent for a lot of it. But I did at one point get someone who messaged me and was like, hey, like, I'd really love to buy a bud vase of yours. Like, how can I do that? That one DM that I got, probably sometime in the summer when I was, sharing a bunch of stories. Because what I did do a lot more is share stories every now and then of a lot of the flowers blooming in my garden. And one person replied to one of my stories with some pictures of flowers and they were like, how can I buy a bud vase? And I was like, well, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know what to tell you. What I said was, if you have a local potter that makes bud vases, like please support them, buy a bud vase. I can't tell you. Like I really can't. I don't know. But that one question I got in the summer then spurred me on to make a couple bud vases. And then I started making tons of bud vases, tons and tons of bud vases. This is how like fickle I am with my pottery business. So then I made over 100 bud vases and decided I was going to have a holiday sale and sell all these bud vases. That's that one DM that I got from this person is what.
But that's also the sale you were going to try to have by posting every day for 2 weeks after being radio silent for a year.
Exactly that same.
And how'd that go?
Shockingly, well, now is the time for all our business people to plug the email list because luckily, after listening to podcasts like yours and other pottery podcasts, I learned the essential nature of an email list. And so I have, a couple hundred email subscribers. So even though my posts were maybe reaching a few thousand people, which that's the thing.
Numbers are relative.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to hear that and be like, a few thousand. Why are you not happy? Well, out of 65,000, that's a small number.
Exactly. It's like you think, oh, well, if you have 100,000 followers, like, people are totally seeing your stuff. And it's like, well, that's not how it works, actually. A lot of times you can make a post and it'll be a couple hundred or like 2,000 people that'll see it. So yeah, leading up to the sale, the Instagram post I was making really probably didn't go anywhere. I mean, I could see, they all got just a couple thousand views and whatnot, but luckily I had the email list. I did the email plug. I think that definitely helped. So to answer the question, I mean, it went well. Like I sold over half of what I put on, which for me was a massive sale. I've never sold out. Well, that's not true. At in-person events, I've sold that much pottery. For online sales, I've never tried to sell that much. And, I'd say I probably sold like approaching 2/3 of it. So it went okay, but you know, luckily I had that 60,000 followers so that the tiny fraction that did see it, that 1 to 2,000 views I would get, 3 or 4 sometimes, did make enough of a difference that I could sell, luckily.
Right. Because if you had, I don't know, let's say 200 bud vases, I can't do that kind of math in my head. Please hold. We're going to go to the calculator. 200 divided by 65,000, 0.3%. Not 3%, 0.3. 0.3% effectively would be like if 200 bud vases, if 200 individual people bought one bud vase apiece, that's the percentage of the audience size, which
Yeah.
is insane, but I hope comforting also to people to realize, like, when people are looking at numbers, like, without the context of what success on the internet looks like, I think the conversion rate of email, like the average, oh, I forget my numbers
Oh,
now.
it's terrible.
The average open rate of an email list over a certain, let's call it a couple thousand, just in general, because obviously if you have 100 people on a list, your open rate should be a little bit higher than if you have 100,000. I want to say it's like 20%,
Yeah.
which is actually fairly high. I'm proud to report I have 52%. So I'm
Ooh,
like,
that's
what
amazing.
up?
Good job.
Niche, people, niche.
Yeah.
But, when you realize like the conversion rate of social media is somewhere around like 2%, maybe, if you're lucky to get on an email list, let alone to then buy something. I'm saying these things because I want to put into perspective, like, you're not doing anything wrong if you have 2%
Yeah.
conversion. Like, that's actually quite average,
Yeah. Absolutely.
you know?
I think the last time I looked when I did the email plugs, it was like, what was my open rate? I think it was somewhere around like 20% or something.
Yeah.
Which
is great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But it doesn't feel great because it feels like you're supposed to be hitting 80 or 90 because that was an A or a B in school. Right? It's interesting though, because I have some very untested theories about algorithms and whatnot, and I'm currently testing for myself,
oh,
not posting super, like, I used to be 3 times a week, Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, I have to figure out something.
uh-huh.
And now I've loosened that significantly. And so I'll go a week without doing anything, and then I'll maybe do once or twice or once or 3 times. So I would say I'm redefining what I mean by consistency,
Yeah.
because the old adage of like consistency means what I just said, pick your days of the week, always do those days at the same time every week, I don't believe holds true anymore. I don't have enough data, so this is a belief. As opposed to quality of what you're putting out there, right? What I'm seeing for myself, I'm posting inconsistently, but let's call it semi-regularly. So I'll go quiet for a week or maybe 2, but then come back, and then, so I'm not going months.
Yeah.
But then when I do have something to post, I'm sharing because I have something to post, like, because I'm excited about what I'm sharing.
Yeah.
And the quality has changed as opposed to when it was 3 times a week and I felt obligated. So my numbers have actually gone up,
Yeah.
which is going to infuriate people to hear, because this is
Oh.
going to feel like opposite.
No, I totally believe that. And yeah, I should clarify with what I mean by posting consistently, because you're absolutely right. So I would say that you are posting consistently, but like you said, it's a different kind of consistency, right? Like you're not posting the same hours at the same days, 3 posts a week, but you are not letting yourself go too long without posting something. Like maybe like
Right.
a week, are you saying?
Yeah.
Would be like the
Probably
longest.
2 weeks max since October. So I took Instagram off my phone. I have
Oh.
not done what I find interesting when I was asking, like, how
Wait.
you manage that. Yeah.
You don't what? How?
So
How?
Uh-huh. I love how you just I'm gonna keep all of that audio because there was never a finished word or like, "Ha what?
Yeah,
Ha
just not compute. No, Instagram.
So, it's been an experiment, and I think that it's working so far because I couldn't I had too much fear around the notion of like, cold turkey, right? Of completely getting rid of it
Yeah.
because I am reliant on my income. It is the top of the funnel for me to get people on an email list, for them to find out about this podcast, for people to take courses and join the community. And therefore, we can buy dog food and healthcare. We're not doing anything that exciting with any money that we earn. We are not at a viable place yet where, like, the audience is so big, the word of mouth is so big that I don't have to do anything to encourage people to come around.
Yeah.
So I couldn't go fully cold turkey, but I also was acutely aware that I can't go completely dumb phone. Like, we moved to Milwaukee 4 years ago. I use Google Maps to get around everywhere, which is slightly embarrassing. It's for music, for calendar, for clock, for all of the things. So I've tried creating all the blocks on the phone. I've got an app that makes it look like a dumb phone. We've tried all the things. And like you said, they built it to make it more addicting than drugs. So I took the app off my phone, but I did not delete my account.
Oh.
So I can go to
Yeah.
Instagram.com
Can you
on
make
my computer.
posts? Can you make posts on the computer?
Well, I use a scheduler, like Planoly or whatever.
A scheduler that's an app on the phone?
I use Planoly, and it doesn't matter which one you use. Planoly later, there's there's so many of them now. So I'll make the posts on my computer,
Oh,
upload them into the web browser version of the scheduler.
I didn't know this was a thing. You're like blowing
And
my
then,
mind right now.
yeah. So, I mean, there's some stuff that I can't do, like some of the feature, like I haven't been on stories since October because I haven't had Instagram on my phone since October.
Right.
And I miss that. I miss that a little bit in the sense of, like, a community member will tag me in something and then I could reshare their news to a broader audience for them, or, just potters that who are doing fun and exciting things that you want to share and tell more people about.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to do because there's no way for me to reshare a story on desktop.
Yeah, right.
But but the desktop browser version of Instagram is like being on AIM in the
I know. Yeah.
early 2000s.
That's why I didn't understand how this was working, because
Yeah, it's clunky. It's clunky. It's not nearly as addictive. I mean, you can still sit there and scroll if you're not careful, but it is way easier to be like, this is dumb. I'm going to go away now. It's like waiting for a song to download on Napster. So it's just clunky enough that I can use it to stay connected to other people. I can use it to share things about the podcast and about what's going on. But then that's it. And I'm off. So we'll
Good
see.
for you.
I don't know.
Can I ask, like, what triggered your decision to get the app off your phone?
I get those screen reports every week of how many hours a day on average I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting to me, personally.
Well, you're not alone. I mean, obviously.
To be fair,
to know that.
To be fair, here's what I find really interesting, and I will be, like, uncomfortably honest. The time has not actually gone down that much. And I'm very confused by that because I absolutely used to sit and scroll in the bathroom for some, like, why am I taking my phone in the bathroom? Why do I need, like, we can just use the toilet and then leave.
Oh. No, we cannot be alone with our thoughts for even 3 seconds, Rebecca. We can't.
Right. Like, standing in line waiting, like looking up around you and not scrolling along something. I kind of do that now. But yeah, like not taking the phone to the bathroom and then you realize you've been sitting on the toilet for 40 minutes for absolutely no reason. You didn't need to be in there that long, but you were because you were scrolling Instagram.
Yep.
TMI probably, but I'm guessing I'm not alone.
Well, no, I'll join in on that.
And there's been moments where we've done things like either a vacation or like a self-imposed kind of mini residency type thing with friends. Or like if we're out of the country, I don't have I won't pay for data or something like that.
Yeah.
And so then my phone usage goes way, 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 way down. And I can just like check in when you're in a hotel or at someone's home with Wi-Fi. And that was enough. Like I could just check in and I didn't miss anything, or I missed things, but I'm glad that I did because I wasn't getting inundated with news updates or something. And it was like, that was so much better. Like, I don't know. This is a rambly answer of what brought that about, but I've also just been thinking, okay, when we're kids, I had a very busy schedule, but I did a lot of things that I love to do. Some of that capacity is taken away by the nature of adulting, where you have to handle so many things you never realized your parents were handling in terms of, I don't know, just thinking about groceries and all of these really boring things. But then the other piece of it is also the technology piece and the screens and social and whatever. So I'm like, how do I get back those hours in my day so that I can go do a hobby that eventually I will monetize?
Was all leading back to that. You got rid of the Instagram just for the hobby. That's gonna become the summer
The hobby that I will then make a new Instagram account for.
Yes. On day 3 of the hobby.
No. Was that your I was like, when did the garden one start?
Uh,
Oh gosh, it's so true. It's so true.
It really was like, I think maybe the second or third week of my pottery class where I was like, oh, I'm gonna make a pottery Instagram now. Like, I can't even fucking throw anything. But here's my Instagram account for my shitty pottery. Gotta show everyone.
Didn't happen, doesn't exist if you didn't take a picture, or whatever that phrase used to be that I don't remember now.
Yeah. Pixar didn't happen? Was that it?
Yes, that was it. Yep, that was it.
Ugh.
That's so accurate. That's so accurate.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the account that is now the Maker's Playbook started out with the name Purposeful Pottery, because I'm so clever, and I'm fairly certain I made it. I had it before I went to Italy, but I definitely used it when I went on my residency, which is so stupid because the whole point of that experience was to like detach from life and go all in on like pots and I don't know, just a break from life.
Wait, did you do a pottery residency in Italy?
I did.
That is so cool.
Matt, everyone's going to know you never listen to the podcast if I tell you this story.
No, I have. I swear, I promise I have
kidding.
listened to.
I'm
I
totally
will
just
admit
giving you shit.
I haven't listened to it in the last few months, but I have listened to scattered random episodes from the last.
I am just giving
years.
you shit. I am just giving you shit. No, I'm going to do the short version to not bore anybody. I got back into pottery through a community studio, much like yourself. I don't know, 2016-ish. Shout out to Lincoln Square Pottery Studio. And through that experience, found out about this school, not like a official school, like a studio in Italy that they have all sorts of different classes, much like, Haystack or the Bray or all these places. But one of the things that they do have is a 3-month-long residency that goes from January through the end of March. And as we've talked about, when you're an event photographer, especially social events in the Midwest, I was getting, over the years with the community studio, I was getting more and more obsessed with clay, and I wanted to go and do like a workshop or something. And I'm thinking like a week-long thing. But all I could find was in the summer.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that. And so I then found out about this 3-month-long thing, which sounds crazy to go from like 1 week to 3 months. But it was January to March. And I was like, I can do that.
Yeah. Right.
Actually. Because I can still check email from another country. It's not a big deal. Yeah. So I got it's a 10-person program. There's people from all over the world that I was lucky enough to get into. And then life was never the same because that was January of 2020. That's where I met Francesco.
Oh my God. Okay.
The residency ended. It ended early because obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I was on the last plane out of the direct flight from Italy to the last direct flight from Italy to the US
Oh,
on March 14th of 2020.
wow.
We can talk about the healthcare side of that for your professional life
Yeah.
off the record.
Oh, yeah. That's
But yeah.
wild.
Yeah, that's where I met Francesco, and then 11 months, well, less than from March to, so 9 months later, that sounds like a weird timeline. Not that kind of timeline. We eloped in the living room in Chicago in December of 2020.
Oh my God, that's so cool. So was he teaching or was he like also a resident or?
He was effectively a studio tech.
Oh, okay.
So he's always been a professional potter, and then we met through pottery.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Anywho, I forget what we were saying with that. Oh, Instagram. So I had the Instagram account for the period of time in which
Yeah.
I was supposed to be taking a break.
Yeah.
I think the theme of this conversation is millennials and our monetized hobbies. That might be our title. I know that I have kept you for a very long time. So is there anything that we haven't touched upon that you wish people knew, never get asked about?
Has it been a while? Honestly, it's just like,
Oh, good.
I have like no notion of time.
Great.
I don't really have anything that I wish people would ask me, but I will say, tying back to Instagram, I wish people would have a better understanding of how much failure goes into the success that you see on it. Yeah, if I could boil it down to one question, I wish people would ask me more of like, so how many times did you fail making that pot before you got it just right? Because then I would tell you like probably 3 or 4 times before I got this one beautiful pot, if not more. Like
There's a lot of videos on your phone that will never be posted.
yeah, so many. And I mean, I do try to post some failures every now and then when I'm like on Instagram, regularly. But
Mhm.
what people want to see the successes, right? Like you're never gonna grow an audience if 50% of what you share is just the mistakes.
Flop. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, now I want somebody to test this out.
Oh,
Now I'm like, ooh, but can we?
but maybe actually, I'm sure someone could do it. If it was entertaining enough, actually, you could probably just post fails and, somehow make that your niche thing. You're right.
I'm genuinely thinking about how this would work now. But whatever, we'll come back to it. We'll find, again, we've got to find somebody who touched clay and then was indifferent. Not even like didn't like it, because I could see that, like a tactile situation where it's just like, ooh, not for me. It's the indifferent person that I'm
Oh,
like, do they exist?
yeah, you're right. That is the tougher, like,
Right.
uh
So that one, and then an Instagram fail account that successfully sells pottery. These are our two.
Oh, wow.
Send an email to podcast@makers-playbook.com if you have one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this was so long overdue, and I could just
Yeah.
keep going and going, but also I know you're an hour later than I am, so you should like have dinner with your partner and do other things.
You called it. That's exactly what's about.
Glorious. Well, where on the internet do you want to send people if you want to send them anywhere to come connect and see what you're up to?
Yeah. So Robinson Fired Home on Instagram. Yeah, you can check me out there. I think I'm going to try to be more active. I mean, I say this every freaking January, like, but I will say last January, it was like, I'm going to post 3 to 4 times a week and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. This January, I'm like, it would be really great, Matt, if you could just post like once a week on Instagram. That would be perfect. Well,
I am clearly pro like team when the spirit moves. Like you're super excited, took a great pic of a flower. Maybe merge those accounts so you don't have multiple to post to.
yeah. Yeah. I will tell you that the gardening one I didn't touch at all the whole last year, which is like, that's the whole thing with this. Oh my God, we could have talked so much just about the calendar project, like how that was
Yes.
such a dumb idea for me to market what amounts to basically a floral photography project to my pottery people. Like, that was why I was like, you really need to make a flower Instagram and grow an audience that's interested in flowers if you want to sell pictures of flowers, dude. Like, maybe you went about this the wrong way. So that was
I mean, I saw it. I understood. Maybe it's a matter of being more selective of like it has to be the type of arrangements where you can clearly see the pot.
yeah. I mean, at the heart of it, when you look at the calendar, any random person that would like flip open, it's like, oh, another flower calendar. Like pretty like there's like 1,000 of these. Like great.
Perhaps not the right niche. Niche, I don't know.
Yeah. So that's how the flower Instagram was born. But anyway, I'm sorry.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I could connect the dots, but I was just thinking like make collab posts between the flower Instagram and the pottery one so you don't have to do double the work.
I did.
Because
do that.
again,
Yeah.
you don't have to rely on it. Like
Yeah.
I'm very curious, and now I'm opening up a whole can of worms when we were supposed to be wrapping up.
Oh no.
These are the questions that you can never answer, but I'm like, had I not graduated in 2009 and therefore actually gotten a job when we graduated, therefore never starting a business, would I use social media?
Yeah.
Because I use it socially in the sense of like connecting with other potters and like this community that I am now gloriously a part of. But I don't use it socially for my like lifelong friends that I've known since the first grade.
Yeah.
Or since college, or like, in fact, I never even see their posts if they're posting because I've only ever used it for work.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a curious thing. So I'm always fascinated by people that I'm like, but you don't have to. So why are you?
That is such a great question. And because, well, I think we all start by connecting with real life people. At least, that's how I started. But then it just devolves from there into complete brain eating, useless chaos.
It's like they put trillions of dollars into it to get us to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
cut ourselves some slack.
Yeah. Wow.
Amazing.
So nice. Thank you so much for having me on. It was so nice chatting with you.
Thank you for saying yes to a very random message a couple of years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
I hope this conversation with Matt has given you permission to question whether the path you think you're supposed to take with your making is actually the path that will keep you loving it. If you've been feeling guilty about not posting enough to Instagram, well, for starters, I just said enough using my hands to make air quotes, if that wasn't clear. And secondly, I sure haven't been doing much of my own posting online lately, and you're still here listening to this podcast, right? So it's okay. If you love trying new forms and glazes and haven't found your voice yet, that's more air quotes in case you couldn't tell, it's okay to embrace that creative restlessness instead of forcing yourself into a box. If you're making a living from something else and keeping pottery as the thing that brings you joy without the pressure to be profitable, that's okay too. Matt's experience shows us that sometimes the smartest business decision is choosing not to treat everything we love as a business. And honestly, as someone who has definitely monetized way too many hobbies myself, I deeply appreciate Matt's reminder that keeping some things just for the love of it, with the luxury to fail, experiment, and follow wherever your curiosity leads, might actually be the ultimate creative freedom. But I also know all too well that this all sounds really nice, but is actually crazy difficult to put into practice on a day-to-day level. especially when the internet is shouting at all of us about the things that we should be doing or the ways that we could be successful. So, for the last couple of months, I've been working on something to help solve all that shouting at us. And I made a super fun, free quiz that I hope helps you ignore what the world says you should be doing and get refocused on what actually suits you. Your specific goals and dreams, your actual life, your unique making practice. Because over the last 5 years of interviewing fellow makers here on the podcast, yep, the podcast has been going for 5 years already, which is crazy. Over that time, I've noticed there are some tried and true paths. In fact, there are actually 5 proven paths to building a maker business or a side hustle like Matt. And I've sorted them out into a quick and easy 10-question quiz for you to take and discover which of the 5 maker archetypes matches how you naturally work, so that you can finally stop wondering if you're doing all of this wrong or not. You can take the quiz at makersplaybook.com/maker-quiz and let me know what you think about your results, because I'm super excited about it. All right, my friends, until next time, go get back to making your dreams a reality, because together, we've got this. Audio post-production of this podcast is made possible by help from Christy Kotzfan, with promotional material assistance from Queenie Maliki. The Maker's Playbook podcast is recorded on the original homelands of the Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee people, where the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present.